Today, we're tackling one of the biggest, most frustrating problems with AI. It's awful memory. And we're going to do it by looking at this really cool new project called mem-agent. I mean, you've probably felt this, right? You get into a really good groove with an AI, you're teaching it your preferences, telling it about a project you're working on, and the next day you come back and it's all gone. It's a total blank slate. It has absolutely no clue who you are or what you were just talking about. So the big question is, what if we could finally fix that? Okay, so what's the root cause of this AI amnesia? Well, it all boils down to this one technical thing that's basically the AI's short-term memory. It's called the context window, and you can just think of it like the AI's immediate awareness, what it's thinking about right now. The problem is it can only hold a certain amount of information. So as new stuff comes in, the oldest stuff just gets pushed out the back, and it's gone, forgotten forever. Now, relying only on this context window for memory creates three massive bottlenecks. For one, you've got that hard limit. It just flat out can't remember past a certain point. Then there's a soft limit, which means its performance starts to get really wonky long before you even hit that hard cap. And finally, just making that window bigger costs a ton of computing power. It's not a real solution for creating long-term memory. And this is where the mem-agent folks did something really clever. They took a totally different path, and they got their inspiration from something you probably use all the time. The core idea is just so simple and elegant. Instead of trying to build a bigger and bigger brain, what if we just gave the AI a notepad? Seriously, what if it had an external place where it could write things down, look them up later, and update them, just like we do? And right there, that's the fundamental shift. A normal AI is trapped inside its own short-term forgetful memory, but mem-agent, it gets an external, long-term memory that sticks around. It remembers things from one conversation to the next, and it just keeps growing over time. And the way they built this is super intuitive. It's actually inspired by note-taking apps like Obsidian. So the AI gets its own little folder of simple markdown text files. This becomes its digital brain, a place where it can keep notes about you, what you're working on, and everything you've talked about. Okay, but just giving an AI a notepad isn't the whole story, right? You actually have to teach it how to use it. And that's exactly what they did. They turned remembering into a skill the AI could learn. So they trained the AI on three core skills. The first one is retrieval. Can it actually find the right piece of information in its memory when you ask about it? The second is update. Can it add new stuff you tell it? Or maybe change a note that's out of date? And the third one, which is super important, is clarification. Does it know when to stop and ask you a question if something you say is confusing or maybe contradicts something it already has written down? That last part is key to keeping its memory accurate. All right, so they built the system, they trained the agent on these skills. The next big question is, obviously, did it actually work? And to figure that out, they couldn't just use an off-the-shelf test. They had to build their own. They created this custom benchmark called MD Memory Bench. And this was really important because it was designed from the ground up to test those exact three skills we just talked about: retrieving, updating, and clarifying info from its digital notepad. And the result? The mem-agent scored a really impressive 75%. Now, that number might not sound mind-blowing on its own, but wait till you see how it stacks up against the competition. Okay, just look at this. The base model, which is a pretty solid 4 billion parameter AI, only scored 39% on its own. But once they gave it the mem-agent training and the notepad, its score nearly doubled to 75%. And what's really wild is that this little 4B model is now performing almost as well as a monster state-of-the-art model that's more than 50 times its size. It just goes to show how much more efficient it is to give an AI a tool instead of just making it bigger and bigger. So this is way more than just a cool science experiment. The implications for how we're all going to interact with AI in our daily lives, they're absolutely huge. I mean, this is how we get a true personal assistant. Just imagine an AI that actually remembers that you like your summaries short and sweet. Or one that can keep track of a project you've been working on for months. Or it can pull up that one tiny detail from a conversation you had 3 weeks ago. It changes the AI from just a tool you use into a partner you can actually collaborate with. And maybe the best part of all this, they've made it all open source. They've released a tool that lets any developer out there hook this mem-agent system up to pretty much any AI model, so you can give any AI you're working with this powerful long-term memory.
Even the authors themselves say it in the paper. They believe that this line of research, focusing on memory, is a critical step on the path to AGI. It's not just a feature, it's a foundational piece of that much bigger puzzle.
So that leaves us with a really fun question to ponder. If you suddenly had an AI assistant that could actually remember everything you taught it forever, what's the very first thing you would tell it?